Hi there, this is George from superbootcamps.com. So already in this video series we've looked at the Innovate f-lite 195s, a pair of homemade Huarache sandals cut to the shape of my foot, and indeed some of the things that we've talked about already are these are incredibly flexible, they bend very easily, they move with the feet, and they allow your feet basically to do what the feet are designed to do. And if we have a look at the Merrell trail gloves, we can see that these do almost exactly the same thing. Still very flexible, very bendy, very easy to move around. Indeed, you can wrap them around into one hand, size of a tennis ball virtually. Very, very flexible, very, very comfortable on the feet. Now, one thing that's worth pointing out with these Merrell trail gloves is that they are a different shape than the f-lites. You can see there that the toe is slightly more rounded, certainly wider in the forefoot. And we can see if we look over at the bases how different shape they are as well. Again, the Merrell seal seems slightly shorter as a shoe, and indeed if I was to put them ends up, they are around about 2 centimeters shorter than the Innovates. What we can also see is that they have a more rounded heel, and indeed a much thinner heel than the Innovates. They're narrower through the midfoot, and indeed this section of yellow cushioning through here, which you can't really see too easily, really sculpts itself to the arch of your foot, and when you first put it on you think, oh, this feels like it's got some sort of cushioning in there, and then you put your foot in there and what happens is that there isn't actually any cushioning, any support in there whatsoever, because it's totally flexible. It's actually just fitted to the side of the foot. I have to admit, these are the most comfortable shoes that I've ever worn, by quite some margin really. They are not only lovely for walking in, but they're also fantastic for doing distance running in. Quite happily run for 2 to 3 hours in these shoes without any problems whatsoever. If we have a look at the inside, again it's always difficult to see in a video, but the stitching is almost non-existent. It seems to be glued in some places, hidden in others, and there's a very, very smooth suede type fabric on the inside, and what feels like a suede type fabric on the sole of the shoe. They've got this nice lacing system whereby the strap goes through a small hole through there and attaches to the tongue through here. Again, quite difficult to get that across on the video, but basically what happens is as that pulls through there, it tightens the tongue upwards into the shoe and holds it very, very firmly in place. You can also see that the lacing doesn't come down particularly far into the foot, and that's fine because it doesn't get in the way of the foot operation at all. This ends right at the top of the tarsal bones of the foot and really holds the foot nicely in place. The only problem I've had with these shoes is a small blister right around here where there is a seam, even though it is a flat sewn seam and it's very, very smooth. Whilst my feet were just getting used to it, I got a little blister in there, but the past few times I've used them, that's not been a problem at all. So again, these very, very comfortable shoes, in fact very, very grippy shoes as well. The sole on them is not particularly deeply treaded, but it doesn't seem to matter. They seem to grip in almost every condition that I've run in, and that's through woodlands, through gritstone trails and over fells. It doesn't really seem to matter, they just keep on going and going and going. And in fact these have actually replaced my walking boots for weekend walks. I just almost don't see the point of them outside winter anymore. These offer such grip, such feeling, and because your feet are so close to the floor, because they've got no heel whatsoever, and don't be fooled by this rubber band here, this actually is just a piece of rubber that goes up the outside. The heel on the inside is completely flat, it's completely soleless, if you like. There is just this piece of rubber underneath, that just kind of, that bit of plastic there cups the heel and nothing more. And because these are so close to the ground, they are just incredibly stable. Having gone over and twisted my ankles a couple of times in the past and rolled them indeed even in these, the rolling isn't a problem because the angle that they roll through and the distance that they roll through is so small that the natural roll of the ankle just takes it. So that's one of the big benefits of these shoes, that you're much less likely to roll your ankle in these and do some damage than you would do in shoes that have a thicker sole. So that's my review of the Merrell trail gloves. In preference, I prefer to use these to run in than I do the Innovates. They feel slightly more comfortable, they feel like they're moulded slightly more to my feet. They don't necessarily feel any lighter. In fact, comparing them the two, I think these weighed about 220 grams as well. So they're of a very, very similar weight, and I definitely actually prefer wearing these shoes compared to the Huarache sandals. Now a lot of people will go, oh no, you need to have absolutely minimalist shoes for this. But my reason is very, very simple. That when my feet are in here, this front bit just every so often tends to flap around a little bit, and indeed you can hear sort of how flappy that is, and sometimes as I'm running it gets caught through, especially running on trails or on grass where there's stones or the grass to pull it back. And the other thing that I find my feet doing is gripping the shoe slightly, trying to grip through the toe and not really relaxing quite as much as I know that it can do if I'm running totally barefoot, or if I'm running in, for example, the trail gloves, which my feet can just completely relax into. So that is interesting. It's something I didn't expect. I thought that when I was going to be running in the Huarache sandals that these would just be perfect, and indeed they're great, but they're not quite perfect. My preference every time is to go for the Merrell trail gloves.